Welcome to the Live the Call podcast, where I speak with guests living and working their soul's purpose. I'm Pamela Downes, founder of Spirit Calling and trans-channeler of the Great Council of Light. Every episode, our guests share their awakening story, and together we learn how they came to live their spirit's call. Join me in tales of self-discovery, enlightenment, and transformation to amplify your healing journey.
Perfect, and look how God's used me. I've impacted all these people through transparency, just going, I'm not perfect, I'm putting one foot in front of the other. Like, I used to invite celebrities and reach out to them with a voice note. I had no airs and graces about me.
Welcome to Live the Call. Today I'm joined by Glenn Marsden, a visionary speaker, best-selling author, and founder of the Imperfectly Perfect Campaign, a global movement reshaping the conversation around mental health and self-acceptance. So it started with no network and no resources, has now impacted, over 12 million people worldwide? It's amazing, Glenn, what you've done. It's such an incredible story, and I can't wait to dive into it. You were uniting Hollywood icons and thought leaders and change makers in a mission to break stigmas and inspire true authenticity. So we're going to hear about Glenn's journey today and what a powerful testament to resilience, purpose, and divine alignment it is. And I can't wait to hear your story, and I'm so excited for you to be here. I was just on your podcast, and it was amazing. We had such a great time. And now I get to hear your story and share it with our community. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me, and couldn't be more honored. Obviously, having you on my show and learning your story, and read and researched so much about you. It's incredible honor. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a lot in common with our stories. And I shared so much with you that I had never shared with anyone before. And I really left there feeling like, you never know what to expect when you go on a podcast. We're so used to connecting with people and to talking with people, and we're both so authentic. And it's just like we want to serve, and we want people to have experiences that can help them shift their lives. And when something comes up live, you really want to just share it. Like, you are so in the moment. And I had like an experience from that. So it was really interesting. So I want to hear, like, you're doing so much, you're connecting people, you're reaching millions of people, but I would really like to talk about like how it all started, because this podcast serves as an inspiration to others, people who are just starting to think bigger and to break out of that web that maybe has been kind of blocking some of their perspective. And, hearing your story and hearing how you started inspires them. So can we go back to the beginning? And I want to know, like, about your
Right back.
childhood, and go back to the very
Yeah.
beginning and just hear the
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
I suppose where everything took off for me was essentially from a place of adversity within myself. I dealt with body dysmorphia several years ago. So for anybody who doesn't really understand that, it was a sense of I turned 30 and we had our first child. And I thought presumably that's when you kind of settle down, you've got your career, you've got everything going. Whereas with me, I started comparing myself to other people, but it was with my body being in obviously the fitness industry, surrounded by people in Australia. They're very beautiful people. They look like they come from a magazine cover or a shoot. I'm from the countryside in Yorkshire, back in the UK, and it just got to a detrimental place. It really, really. I'd never experienced it. I never spoke about it. The whole masculine dominated thing. I was never telling friends, but it got out of hand for me, to the point where we couldn't find childcare in Australia. My wife's from Thailand. We moved there. I thought it would be a new turning point for me. It was, in the sense of a detrimental turning point. Take me out of normality to a different culture. I was just experiencing, I always say, dancing with the mirror. I'd look at myself for 2 to 3 minutes. By the end, when it took its grip on me, 2 to 3 hours in the mirror, pulling myself apart,
Wow.
just really. And we lived in a high-rise apartment in Bangkok. And there was a time I always remember looking over the edge. And I knew I wouldn't do anything because I got a child and I got a wife. But at the same time, I wanted the pain to stop. And I couldn't understand any of it. So long story short, it came to a turning point for me. My wife put a turning point in. She said, look, I love you, but we're not seeing you. She was like, we've got a new child. She said, so we're either going to have to part ways or you're going to have to seek help. And it was the first time I broke down. So that was my rock bottom. It was the first time I cried in
Hmm.
front of my wife. Essentially, from there, I started doing cognitive behavioral therapy. We got childcare back in Sydney, Australia. So I went back to normality and it started going from there and I started growing. A couple of years later, I turned social media back on because that was my detrimental point as well, comparing. And I saw an old friend from the UK had passed away. Now I looked into it, and this was only a person I used to go to the gym with, so not somebody predominantly that close. But there was no illness, there was no nothing on social media that I could see. So I reached out to some old friends back there, and he'd sadly taken his life. And there was a video that popped up, and it was an interlude of him, a montage of his wife getting married, and then this little kid that came in, his son. And it gets me to this day because he's there kissing and cuddling and rocking. And for that mother to have to sit down and tell a child that their father's not coming back and that child's going to miss
Hmm.
out on growing up, learning how to shave with his dad, ride a bicycle, kick a football with him. It just something that still gets me to this day, thinking that my story could have very easily been my friend's story had I have had that clouded moment of judgment. So moving forward, it was only a sense of a couple of years later when I was going into the city in Sydney and I saw this big sign and it was this little old lady on a poster on a billboard. And I was like, what's that about? And I looked into it. And if you read it, it was about suicide awareness. She lost her husband. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. First of all, we're time poor. Second of all,
Hmm.
you're losing the demographic of the younger generation. How's the connection there? And it was almost this light bulb, something within me. I wasn't brought up around faith or spirituality, but something within me was drawing me to go, you need to make a difference here. And I suppose it took a call to action from me that, as you can see, if you're watching this video, the pictures behind me, I just reached out to some of Australia's biggest celebrities and public figures across every industry. And I said, look, you don't know me from Adam. I want to take a photo of you because that was my passion at the side. I did photography. I said, but I don't want it in a studio. I want you to go back to a moment where you was dealing with struggles yourself, and I want to shoot you. And I caught it within a second. I'd literally get them there. They'd get a piece of music or a diarized piece of writing that they'd written from their time, and I'd be shooting away. And then there'd be one pivotal moment. You can say that's my calling.
Hmm.
I'd say, look at me. And if you go through the website and you see those moments that are taken, a single tear, like the lady behind me, or the
Hmm.
bottom, the man struggling with severe depression, doesn't know how to get out of it. I'm getting shivers as I'm
Hmm.
talking about it now because it's
Yeah.
taking me back to the start of it all. And that was it. That was the genesis of the whole thing. And then it
Mhm.
opened to this whole spiritual calling that I never even knew about. So that's the beginning.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, right now I'm working on a campaign for a client, Stop the Stigma of Mental Health and Addiction. And I was talking with someone about it recently. It's like we never learned how to talk about that. I had lunch with someone yesterday whose child was suffering, and she said if she was getting an operation at Children's Hospital and she was out of school for a month and she came home, everyone would have been showering her with gifts and notes and kind acts of kindness. She said, but no one said anything. It's because we don't know how to talk about it because we have so much stigma around it that it's this thing that we're seen as weak or we're seen as frail or all of these things. And to be able to connect everyone with that common thread of compassion, empathy, love, and understanding, it's a beautiful thing. It's like you're shining a light on it, but with love, right?
I
Yeah.
think that's the whole entirety of the Imperfectly Perfect campaign. It's not that we need fixing or that
Mm-hmm.
we are enough. We are
Mm-hmm.
enough as God made us. We are all spiritual beings. And at the end of the day, if we remove everything, we're moving so far ahead with societal conditioning and the technology these days that we're missing that connection part. So I wanted the human element to come back and just go, you don't need to be fixed. You don't need that. You are enough. Yes, we
Mm-hmm.
go through psychological issues where we do need help and guidance, which is where we all come in, and then professionals, but we are enough. Like God
Mm-hmm.
made us perfect. These imperfections we see in ourselves are those quirks, those flaws, everything about us that will attract our people and that we can leave our story, because storytelling is one of the oldest forms of generational passed down. It's like, how did
Yeah.
we, through history, through Aboriginals, through every single culture, telling us a story, and that's how we've learned. So why all of a sudden with technology, because everything's so disconnected, is people don't think they should share their story to impact and inspire people. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
we are going so fast that we are
Hmm.
forgetting who we are and how to connect with each other without a device in our hands.
We are. It's absolutely true, especially our youth too. They don't have basic skills to be able to walk up to an adult or a peer and have confidence, look someone in the eye, shake their hand, ask for a meal or order at a restaurant. Like, it's really it's terrible. And there's this extreme insecurity. You talked about capturing emotion in photography, and your photography is absolutely beautiful, and you're creative, and it's like that complete dynamic, like polar opposite of what we see on social media and what is beautiful and what is represented as the ultimate physique and the youth and beauty and all the things. And you're basically saying, I'm flipping it upside down. I'm catching the heart, I'm catching the emotion, I'm catching the real person, not all the things that you're making matter. Yeah.
It's like those highly curated pictures. It's where
Hmm.
my problems stem from. And I can look back, and if we move it towards like this kind of whole spiritual notion, I had a dream one day and it was almost like this had never been an experience of mine, but it showed me all my progression into what had happened. And through everything I'd been through, being working in college at hospitality whilst I was studying, and then standing up for the little people, working all these hours and just saying to the bosses, no, this is not right, to them letting me go. And then
Hmm.
I moved into fitness. And it was like everything showed me, and then moved into photography through fitness. And then all of a sudden, my parents split up and we moved to New Zealand and then to Sydney. And then all of a sudden, I went through mental health issues myself. I lost a friend, and it was like everything was flipped on its head. And I was like, what is happening here?
Hmm.
And there's the whole thing with it, with the photography, with everything in our journey is led. And I can say, hand on heart, I've got such a passion for people. And it's such a sad reality these days that many people do question those that have a sincere passion for helping others,
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, there's got to be something behind it, because we can't. Yes, we can. When we
Hmm.
have been through something ourselves, we've experienced something. We don't want anybody else to feel that. But again, that's that disconnection through social media. It's like everything's so fast and everything's me, that we can't
Hmm.
possibly believe there are people in this world who are being guided to bring back people to that human element of connection and truly going, share your stories, connect, bring it together, because that is a true collective effort. I think we see all these shiny words through social media. Let's come together as a collective. Let's do this. Let's do this, but yet you don't see the actional part. So everything that I want to do is first and foremost bringing people along my journey, one foot in front of the other, showing people that you don't have to be perfect. And I do have
Hmm.
the ability I've learned as part of my gift. Like you said, there was something in our podcast together that brought out of you. I've got two abilities, I've been told. One to make people cry because I touch their
Hmm.
heart, and one to make people say things that they've never normally said in podcasts. You
I
feel like
didn't
they're
know
saying,
that.
yeah. But it's when I was told that, I was like,
Hmm.
every single person seems to
Hmm.
cry. There's just something I pull out of them. And I think it's
Hmm.
just that safe space. Just, hey, I went into fitness. I don't look at professions. I don't look at titles. I look at the person.
Well, when I look at you, I see that beautiful person. I
Thank you.
see it. I mean, I see you, I can meet someone at a restaurant that comes to my table and asks me if I'm ready to order. And the moment I look in their eyes, I can see their vibration. And it's the same with you. You have these eyes that are deep wells. They're such an old soul. And that journey, like you said, when you travel through your life, you're creating your little path. You're putting all your tools in your tool belt as you're going along, right? And all the things that you're good at, and you're forming your story of what creates you and what you're bringing to the world. And your love of photography and taking beautiful pictures or whatever that desire was, traveled and migrated over the years into something that meant something completely different, you know, and it'll evolve continually, right? It's not changing,
Yeah.
it's not staying stagnant.
Well, it's like acting on that calling. Like, so
Hmm.
anyone listening, that inspirational part from anybody, I think it's once you get that gut feeling, as what I would take it. I always listen to my mum. She was like, "Oh, as a woman, you've got this gut feeling. Listen to it.
Hmm.
That's your intuition." And I never knew anything about it. So I am kind of the whole kind of the narrative around a person who would never say that they are a healer or they're this or they're that, putting themselves into a
Hmm.
box because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think that's the
Hmm.
best way. We spoke about it when I had you on my podcast about I started seeking and started searching and was put in front of people. And then I met people in America and serendipitous occurrences were happening. And then people were saying, Glenn, what you're doing is being guided. And I'm like, yeah, I'm
Hmm.
working hard. Like I just wasn't open to it because I hadn't experienced it. And I
Hmm.
first met this channeler who then reached out to me and started saying, when Jeremy Jackson, a good friend of mine, huge name in America off Baywatch, and they went on a podcast, they started talking about Imperfectly Perfect. Then this purple aura went around the whole room, and Eden Sassoon from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills turned around and said, I've got a tattoo saying perfectly imperfect, but I didn't know which way to put it. Justin Garina from American Idol, he was there as well. And he was like, that's an affinity that I say to my kids all the time. And the channeler was like, there was just something that we needed to connect, and this was going to go
Ah,
big. And from that, I had a session with her, and she told me a lot of things that I'd never spoken about. And at the end, she said, look, there's some people coming through. Not only is your friend coming through, but this is going to blow your mind. We've got Prince coming through, the late artist.
really?
Yep. And we've got Chester Bennington coming through. And she's like, do you know who Chester Bennington is? I was like, Lincoln Park. And in my head, because this was all new to me, I'm like, yeah, come on, pull another one. Like, I'm just this guy from Yorkshire in the UK. Why is Chester Bennington one of the biggest world's musicians? And she said, look, he knows you're not going to believe him, so he's going to show you. Anyway,
Oh my
last
gosh.
year, I went back to Los Angeles, and for some reason, I was scrolling social media. That's how I connect people. And there was this woman's post called Letitia Fry, and it just stood out, and it was so raw and so real that I connected with her. And she flew from Arizona to Los Angeles the next day to meet with me to shoot for the campaign because something pulled her. And at the end of it, she literally
Con-
said, Glenn, she said, I want to connect you with somebody. And I'm like, yeah, who? She was like, look, she might not get back in touch because she's highly influential. Her husband was the late Chester Bennington. And I'm like, what? And she literally gave me Talinda Bennington's contact number, and it just blew my
Wow.
mind. Called Eden. She said, yeah, they will let you know when the time is
Hmm.
right. So I started
Hmm.
opening my mind to it a lot more and realizing that there's more. And as I look along my journey, again, anyone that's listening, if you have that calling placed upon you, all you have to do is take heed and one foot in front of the other, and all the rest will evolve for you if you learn to trust and let go. But there
Yeah.
is no whole shebang. And this is one of the things I said to you, wasn't it? It was a sense of listening to too many people on social media and expecting that if you
Yeah.
did that, there'd be this whole shebang and the Holy Spirit filling you and like these abilities come on you. None of it for me. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm just different. Maybe God's taking the Michael out of me. Like, oh, Glenn can do the work. And yeah, and when I spoke to you that time, and you was like, thank God that you said that. It needs to be normalized.
Hmm. Totally. You know, you have a global mission. You have a vibration that is it's all there already. Just like you said, it's all there already. You're just aligning to it. You're just putting one foot in front of the other and you're trusting and you're just meeting it. It's all there already. And they
Yeah,
come and they, you know, these little God winks and these little synchronicities that you have nothing to do with them.
yeah,
Nothing to do with them. And they're amazing. And when they pop up and they happen, we go, oh my God. And then we go, of course. I mean, why? Of course, this is how it works, right? And we have our human moments and we get frustrated and we get annoyed and we have our diagrams and our spreadsheets and our projections and our budgets and all of our things. But that's here, that's in our brain. And the
yeah,
universe, it's all there already. It's all there. And it's so hard because we've been programmed to believe, to think in the other way. And so the moment we start to allow that and see it manifest before our eyes like that, it puts the awe and the magic back in, you know, it's amazing. It's really cool. What a cool story. I didn't hear that before. I love that. Yeah, it's
Oh,
great.
but even the better one for you, which you'll love, is a sense that along that journey, I met a lot of people. So there was a world leading shaman. I was searching through COVID, and I went onto this thing called Clubhouse, and that way you can connect. And it was at
Yeah,
my
I was
I
on
was
Clubhouse.
yeah, I
Hmm.
was seeking more. And I was listening to these people in these spiritual rooms, and I was listening to faith, and I was getting confused at certain things. I was walking in rooms with prophets, and then this shaman caught my eye, and I went in. And obviously, with Clubhouse, for anybody who doesn't know, you're essentially listening to people on a platform. It's audio based, and there's a stage, and you're in the audience. And they're doing this thing about looking at a card, and we could see the card on the screen. And I'm sat on the bed with legs crossed and just arms out. And he was like, "What can you see in this card?" And here's Glenn going, "I can't bloody see anything. Like, what are everyone?" And everyone's talking, going, "Oh my God, I can see this, I can see this." And I'm like, "I'm going to put my hand up because I can't see a thing." Right. So I did. And it got to my time. And first and foremost, he was like, "Glenn, you need to calm down and breathe because you're in your head. You're trying to control the outcome before you've even got going." And I was like,
Mm.
okay. So I'm sat there and he's like, "Right, what can you see?" And again, in my head, again, I'm going, well, I don't want to make him look stupid, but I can't see anything. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. And anyway, it was a sense of I was sat there after a while and he says, "Do you mind if I tap into your energy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course you can. Like, do what you need to do." So he did. And he was like, "You're going to feel a burning sensation somewhere in your body." So after a while, I started feeling it in my right hand shoulder. And I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a little tense in my right hand shoulder. And he was like, "Right, I'm going to turn it up." So we did. And I'm sat there. And then I started, my arms like moving like this. And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. I'm starting shaking. And all these comments, as you know, on Clubhouse are going off, going, "Oh my God, he doesn't realize how and I'm like, okay, what is going on?" And then he says, "Right, I'm going to call my ancestors. I'm going to turn it up because I know what's happening here." And I'm
Was
going,
that
"Well,
Shaman Derek? Was it
Shaman
Shaman
Derek, yes,
Derek? It
yes."
sounds like him.
And so I started doing it, and then all of a sudden, like my fingers was doing this, dancing, and I was going like this. And he says, "Right, I know what's going on." And all these comments again, and going, "Oh my God, duh, 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 duh." And he says, "Right, guys, what we've got here is a celestial code writer." And all the comments are going, and in my head, I'm going, "What the bloody hell's a celestial code writer?" Like, this is how naive I was at the beginning. And then he's going, "You literally have a gift to change things and change the matrix. And that's what you're doing. You're typing it out with your fingers." And I was like, "What the bloody hell's the matrix?"
This is so
And
good.
and he said, "You just need to keep going on your journey and trusting, but really learn to tap into your gifts." He said, "You're
Hmm.
too much in your head thinking you need to control it, whereas it's
Hmm.
coming to you naturally. Look on your journey and how it's evolved and how it's grown." And I
Hmm.
think from that point, I'd always say to anybody, from somebody who didn't know they were being led, to people will be placed on your journey at the right time and the right moment to really evolve you. And if you do go into your head, I will say you lose that magic spark. You're not in flow
Hmm.
anymore. And I did, because I was thinking maybe certain aspects of the business and that aren't growing because I'm not being perfect enough. I'm not being righteous enough because I was listening to the stuff about God. And I'm like, "Oh, maybe I swear a little bit, or maybe I go out with my friends drinking a bit, or this, that, and the other." But hang on a minute, I've created something called Imperfectly Perfect. And if we're talking about Jesus, didn't he used to hang around with tax collectors and this and just show them by action instead of preach, like all that? And there was this guy that came on my podcast, and he was one of the biggest all black players from New Zealand. And different story. However, I knew he'd been brought at the right time to teach me a lesson. And what it was his story was he used to berate himself and not think he was perfect enough
Hmm.
because he was gay.
Hmm.
So he was the only gay guy in the rugby team, and he was keeping it suppressed because of that. But he, because he was brought up around faith, had so much fear
Hmm.
because of that, that he thought when he didn't get chosen for a game, it was because he was gay. When he didn't do well, it was because of this, this, and this. And one day he said to me, and this was my turning point, listening, I'm going, "Oh my God, that's me." He was like, I just turned to God and said, "I can't do this anymore. Like, I am who I am." And as I say, I'll be a different experience. Mine was, maybe I'm not perfect enough. So this aspect of the business is not doing as what I want it to.
Hmm.
And I sat there and I was like, in my head, all right, God, I can't do it. I'm not perfect. I am not perfect. If you want me to do this, show me, guide. And from that moment,
Boom.
trajectory, just
Hmm.
boom. So don't control, let go, and start tapping into those sign synchronicities from somebody who didn't know they was guided. That is how you're guided. It doesn't have to be this whole shebang. And that's what I want to get across from this as my skills and my abilities adapt and grow. More things are coming to me and downloads and auras, but
Yeah.
it,
I love
it
it.
wasn't this all like kind of what everyone makes it on social media. Like it's just an instantaneous thing, and you're going, oh my God, I can see dead people and I can.
No, no. And everybody's path is different. And like as you're talking, I'm like getting understandings about you and you know that the whatever the coder, is that what Derek said? Shaman Derek?
Yeah, code writer.
That's part of your creating the matrix, you're creating the web, you're connecting the people. Like that's part of what that is. And
Yeah,
also you're getting stuck in that vision of yourself. You were breaking it.
yeah,
You were breaking it. So you in front of the mirror, you were like you were breaking through the binds that you had on to become the next, like it's fascinating. It's amazing.
yeah.
And
My
you
whole
can,
body at the minute is just like because you can feel it.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Like I could see it. I can see it that was your breaking point. Not literally like in your life's path and everything, but it was like your energetic breaking point. You were breaking through because in the fitness industry, you have to be a certain way. You have to look a certain thing. You have to have all the right things, the right routine, the right nutrition, the right everything has to be perfect.
yeah.
Perfect.
Like
Or
control
else,
motion.
yeah, or else you're not representing it the right way. It's not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
And that was your breakdown into this. It's so interesting and it's beautiful at the same time. Wow,
yeah.
it's really cool. It's fascinating.
It's I love it because as I say, as they've developed, there was conversations that happened when it comes to the spiritual side of things. I've got a friend who's the channel, like I was telling you, Eden, bless her,
Hmm.
and we was doing a call. And as I say, I reach out to people with voice notes, as you got to find out, and that's me. That's like my calling call. I send them a podcast
Yeah.
episode through a bloody voice note, and I was talking to her, and literally, I sent a message back, and I'm like, "Can you turn that TV down? Because I'm listening to two women." And I can't hear you. Can you turn your TV down? And she got back to me and she was like, Glenn, I'm in a room on my own because I'm talking to you. And I was like, no, there's definitely the TV on because it's loud. And she got back to me and she says, welcome. That's the first time you've audibly heard. She was like, what did it sound like? And I was like, no, 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 I'm not listening to this. And then went back to the message again because it was a voice recording. It was just her voice.
Mm.
And then it started
Wow.
developing more. So that's the first audible that I experienced. And then I just allowed it to come through. And I was doing a podcast one day, and like with you, I saw your aura. There was a girl that was on it, a big celebrity in Australia. And I said to her, I said, can I just stop you a minute? I said, look, we can take this out of the recording if you want, because it's personal. I said, but I keep getting this presence of this baby around you, and I don't know why. Because again, I was questioning myself at the time before everything developed. And then tears started coming in her eyes. You see that ability to cry.
Mhm. Yes.
And she was like, look, she was like, I lost a baby about 2 months ago, something like that.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I said, but hold on a minute. I said, there's an older lady that I'm picking up on. I don't know who it is, but she's got these strong features, like this prominent nose, like a really strong feet. And I said, like, a floral dress, but not like nowadays, like real. And she was like, "Well, it might be my partner's grandma. It might be." So we didn't know who it was, but that was
Hmm.
that ability then when that started to trust it instead of going to the old
Hmm.
narrative that Glenn would go into his head and go, I can't say anything. I can't. And these days I'll just reel it off. And if I go, I feel a bit uneasy about saying that because they're all always developing. One of my
Hmm.
best friends is one of the UFC's biggest fighter the other day. Unfortunately, him and his girlfriend, they had a car crash. She's been in an induced coma for a while. And
Oh.
the other day, he sent me a message, and something in me just was like, tell him she's fighting to get back to you. And I was like, I can't say that because he's going through a tough time at the minute. And it was niggling me for the next hour. He was like, tell him, tell
Yeah.
him, tell him. So I sent a message and I was like, Lyman, I said, look, mate, I said, I've known you a long time. I was like, I've just got this message. And I said, she's fighting to get back to you. Like she's literally fighting. I can just see her fighting. And I said, there's something about May. And I don't know what it is. So don't hold me to it. I said that. And then he got back to me and he said, I listened to that message a few times. Like you see him in the octagon fighting. You
Mm-hmm.
won't mess with him. He's a teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the
Mm-hmm.
biggest bar. It's normally that case. And he sent one back, tears, and he was like, mate, I just have to thank you. He said, what you don't know is I've been going into the hospital every day with some pads and holding them up for physical therapy while she's in induced coma. So I've been fighting for her. And I was like, just got like
Yeah.
that. And he said, May's my actual birthday as well. So I was like,
Oh my. Yeah. And you have to say it because that's exercising the muscle. That's like
yeah,
allowing that communication to flow. You
yeah,
can't stifle it. Keep it going. That's amazing because you're tapped in to all of that knowledge. It's
yeah.
amazing.
It's just
Yeah.
knowing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The more it's developed with me is just going, Glenn, just let everything else go.
Yep.
Like
It's
just
part of
as soon as you do it, even through this whole podcast, I'll say I'm sat here just from head to toe, and I just shivers just keep going up and down. So it's like it's amazing.
Maybe something amazing is going to happen because Dina had the dream about Glenn last night. So we have no idea what's going to be in our future together. But
Exactly.
that's the magic. That's the magic. Yeah. And you talk about Christianity, you talk about religion, and you talk about trying to find where your place is and trying to figure it all out. And that's totally normal.
Yeah.
That is the path. That's so many of us. That's how it starts. We're trying to figure out what it is that we believe in. What do we resonate with? Who do we believe in? What are the stories? What are the things? Our families have opinions. We have a discovery that wants to happen, you know? Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. And that's where I first came across you through when I was seeking the Next Level Soul
Mm,
podcast with Alex, because there's a lot of people, ex-Catholic, still Catholic, Christian, all beliefs, near-death experiences.
hmm
And you came on and you just kind of, like I said, what drew me to you was this sincerity. It was just all around you. There was no shebang, there was no nothing. And I suppose on my journey, when it went through not being brought up around faith or anything like that, spirituality, my little to say when I started saying it to my mother, she was like, oh yeah, your grandma actually, she was very faith-based. And she was like, I've got my faith as well. I was like, but you never imparted it on us. You never, she said, no, because I've always been under the same thing as my mum. The guy is that you will learn as you grow where you want to go, what
mm,
you want to do, as long as you're happy. So that I'll
hmm
always thank my mum because it wasn't kind of indoctrinated into anything. So I suppose I can say through the journey, I've been so open because I've been blasé about everything when it comes to this whole world outside of the worldly things.
hmm
Um, and I had a dream one night, again, a dream. I have this call to action in my dreams, but I take that next step. So I
Yeah.
was having a dream, and I always heard back in the day, it was like, always ask before you go to bed if you're going to have a dream to remember the bloody thing because you always forget dreams half the time. Anyway, I was dreaming away, and I had this word baptism in my head. It just kept
Wow.
coming, baptism, baptism, baptism. And in the morning, I remembered it. It was the first thing that I said to my wife. I was like, God knows why, but I had this word baptism in my head. And my wife, like, she's just like, she's Thai, she's a Buddhist, right? Not practicing, she's open. She's always seeking as well, like I was. Anyway, the next day I went on social media because it's a big part of my job, which is ironic to say that that's where my body dysmorphia came from, but I put it on his head. And
Right.
I opened it up and there was a guy that I know called Dave. And it was the first post that popped up and it said, does anyone want to come to church with me? And I've known Dave for years. And I was like, hang on, the first post and it's about church. And I reached out to him and I'm going, Dave, I said, look, I had this dream last night. And I said, but let me tell you, it's not stoic, is it? Because I'm thinking of the British churches where you'd go to a wedding or something. It was a vicar,
Yeah.
very stoic. And he was like, no, he was like, you've got families, you've got young people, they're singing, they're praising, people tell stories. And I'm like, this sounds,
Mm.
oh, yay, I'm going to
Nice
go.
energy. Yeah.
So I went along. And first, I must admit, I was scared shitless because everyone's got their arms up, they're all singing. I'm like, is this a bloody cult? Is this, what is it? But then everyone sat down, and the lead guy got people up, and they started talking about addiction and how they'd overcome it and sharing this story, what I'm about. And I was like, I
Hmm.
love this. I think this is incredible. It wasn't so much as pushing God onto you; it was sharing
Mm.
stories of how God's worked. And I was like, I like this energy. At the end of it, no word of a lie, the guy literally said, just to let everybody know, we're doing water baptisms next week.
Uh,
And I was like, they, and I said to Dave again in my head, I was like, so they do these all the time, don't they? Water baptisms. He's like, no, every 6 months. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
joking.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
anyway, I put my name down for it. I thought, look, I've got to take heed. I've got to call. And again, I was seeking, I was searching, I was listening to people, and they was like, oh my God, when you are baptized, you're going to be filled with the Holy Spirit. You're going to speak in tongues. You're going to do this, this, and this. So I went on the evening and I'm thinking, oh, this is it. Everything's going to come and I'm going
I'm gonna go to bed, and the
to
next day I'm gonna wake up.
I'm going to be changed. I'm going to be this. And essentially, I went and I got in, and there was
Mhm.
a man and woman, and they ducked me under the water, and I came up. And the only thing I can honestly say that I felt that day was this immense feeling of love from a man and a woman
Mhm.
that didn't know me from Adam, that gave me the biggest hug. And
Mhm.
as you get older, your friends become more limited. You'll start to know because you've all got families now
Yeah.
growing, so you don't catch up as often. And for a guy, I will say, I'll share my vulnerability. Like my friends live in other different countries now, so my best mates aren't with me. So to
Mhm.
feel the embrace of another man, a human, just
Mhm.
giving me a big hug and saying,
Mhm.
Len, like I was like, oh, shivers again, because
Mhm.
it's that connection part.
Mhm.
So I did that, and then a couple of days later, I'm going. So where's this whole shebang? I'm not like I'm more in my head than anything now. I'm like seeking, searching, and yeah, that's my whole path. But I think I had to experience that. Well, not I think I now know I had
Yeah.
to experience that because I was going too far in my head toward God then. And I was listening to people who've been indoctrinated as well by the Bible, by everything around God. And as we know, there's a lot of limitations. And a good friend who's a prophet, we always go back and forth. And I said to him, look, you always seem to be struggling in your life, but you're a prophet. You pour into others. I don't get it unless you're coming from a place of fear because you're
Mhm.
holding God through what you've been told by man and woman. How do we know that half of I said, just listen to your heart. I'm not perfect. I've never been perfect. And look how God's used me. I've impacted and
Right.
all these people through transparency, just going, I'm not perfect. I'm putting one foot in front of the other. Like I used to invite celebrities and reach out to them with a voice note. I had no airs and graces about me. I'd get
Yeah.
to my apartment. I did a makeshift photography studio. We'd got our first child, right? I wasn't earning money from anything. And I said to them, oh, I'm going to do a podcast because COVID's coming. I was like, but I haven't got the gear. Can you sit closer to me? And I used GarageBand, that free app on laptop, and press play and record. And that was,
Mhm.
and everyone laughs now and says, so you got a celebrity, a big name to your apartment that's normally on TV shows, they're mic'd up, they've got hair, makeup, and you just got them to your apartment. But there was no,
Yeah, I did.
nobody questioned it. I didn't question it. I just
Mhm.
thought it was part of the parcel.
Mhm.
It's gone around the world. It's seen me in different countries speaking. I always had this mentality of I don't want to ask for donations. I don't want to ask for grants. I don't know why, but I started listening to people. And this is one thing I will say. Please get your head out of what everyone else is saying because you're on your own
Mhm.
unique journey, like you always say, Pamela. Because
Mhm.
I started listening to people at the beginning, they're saying, is it a non-for-profit? Is it this? Is it that? And I'm
Mhm.
going, isn't that the scary thing that people are not
Yeah.
appreciating something in the now rather
Mhm.
than what is it? What is it? What is it? So I
Mhm.
started listening to people. People are like, oh, you need a board of directors. This is going to go massive. We need this, this. Something in my gut again kept saying, no, Glenn. So the night before I was going to sign the papers with this team of board of members, something said, no, pull back. And I listened to it and I never
Mhm.
went forward. And then this man on Clubhouse again, prophet, man of God, poured into me as the room was closing. This lady said, have you got a message for anybody before we go? And this man of God, who's now in my volume 2 of my book series, we've stayed friends. That's how I work. It's just longevity friendships. And he said, I've got a message for Glenn. And he said, look, I don't know why. I don't know anything about him. I've not looked into him. This has just come to me. I've got to tell him now that all I see is race cars, but all these battered cars behind him following him. And he said it's like he's leading these battered cars and his is shiny and he's moving forward. And I also need to tell him, and I don't want him to take offense, but I see him as a cartoon character. And I'm going, okay, I know where this is going. So I knew what he was going to say, and nobody else would, because this is what I've kept inside for a long time, only a few free. And he said, it's almost like he wants to take to give.
Mm,
And when I reached out to him afterwards, I was like, nobody knows this, but my analogy, what I've always grown up with, I want to be Robin Hood. Take from the
oh,
companies, give to the people. And that's why I've never done a non-profit. I've never done a charity. And people have gone, you've made it so hard for yourself. I was like, I have, but I was put in front of a multi-millionaire once and he said, Glenn, do it your way. He said, because if you
mm-hmm,
want to make a difference, do a non-profit. If you want to make an
mm-hmm.
impact, learn the skills that are required to make a business so you can pour into what you're making your own way.
Absolutely. You're creating it. You are the leader of it. You are manifesting it. This is your dharma. This is your soul path. And your discovery of spirit, of universe, of love, it's all love, is your own. It's your unique journey. And what you were doing is your own discovery session of what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And you have to understand that to be able to find what aligns with you, right? And so, you know, the
It's a
baptism,
process.
yeah, and it's a process, but I also feel, and I don't know if anyone ever told you this, but I see this with my community members, you having the dream about baptism was you starting to hone your skills of premonition, your psychic abilities. So you were seeing the future. You get these little snippets of the future, these little snippets of what is to come. And that is kind of like it's like when you're starting, when you're having a baby, your engine's starting, when you're doing anything, you're in the beginning phases of it. And that's what that was. And it brought you on this path of discovery. It's amazing. It's amazing. You keep on moving and listening to your own sheet of music and writing your own sheet of music, or whatever that phrase is. You keep doing it your way because you're
It,
supposed to. You're creating something
it,
new.
it's been an incredible journey and coming across people like yourself.
You
Like I told you, I can't even remember. I think you wrote it down, but last time we did the podcast with the aura, like
hmm
if anyone's listening, like I'll just sit and I can't see Pamela's face. All I see is colors. So today it's blue and purple. You got blue and purple all around you. So again, you might have to write that down and find out what it is because I
I
don't
gotta
have the
write
answers to
it
everything
down.
yet.
I like
That's
it. I
where
like
my
it. I like it a lot.
that's where mine work. It's just blue and aura just all around you all the time.
It's
And I'm just
cool.
like,
Yeah.
okay, can you just show me the face now so I can concentrate?
Can I just see your face, please? I
Yep.
have I just created three meditations and I can't wait to share them with the world. But there's one that I want to gift you. It's connecting to your spirit guides. And I just feel like it is, sometimes and it's created with a sound frequency, with a vibration that's curated in a certain hertz that elevates them and supports that frequency. And, all these little things that come on our path, they help us hone some of those skills. I'd love to gift that to you because there's so much information that you're already tapping into, and you have a team around you. You have so many people around you that are helping you create this giant network that's you're doing something different. Nobody could
Yeah.
help you because it's never been done before and you're discovering it along the way. It's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to say to anybody though, I think I always heard this saying. It's like the day that you pass over and you meet God or whatever you believe in, and God
hmm
turns around to you per se and says, Glenn, what have you learned? Now, if
hmm
I'd have listened to people of faith who are really indoctrinated or anybody else, don't question this, don't do this, don't do this, I'd be stood there to God and go, I'm sorry, God, nothing. Whereas if he goes, Glenn, what have you learned? Well, I've learned this, I've learned this, I've learned. I'm like, if this is my journey and I now get to help others share their stories with the legacies and things like that, then so be it. Because the last dream I would say, and I'd say to anybody, is listen to those dreams
hmm
because it's in those dreams that it starts happening. And last dream that
hmm
I'll tell you because it'll blow you away. Because what you said about guides there, I've always wanted to meet my higher guides, and I'd question it, going,
hmm
I've met them. Who's with me? People tell me I've got all these people around this. And the last dream, I had one, and it was a sense of I saw three figures. They were in a room. I couldn't see them. It was almost like shadows, but I knew they were there. And I'm like, oh, maybe these are my guides. All I saw them do was all point in one direction towards these curtains, and there was like huge, like beautiful curtains. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, presumably they want me to go towards the curtains. Didn't mean anything. And again, I mean, I hope people can see I lead from my heart, because it's
Oh
you
yeah.
don't know what you don't know. You really
Mm-hmm.
don't. And I'm not going to sit here like we often see people and they go, I had this huge awakening and now I know everything. And I'm like, I know less than I thought I knew, right? Because it's incredible. And I went through these curtains and it was an auditorium. I was stood on an auditorium. There was no one in
Mm-hmm.
it. I stood on it. Little to say, I now speak in stages.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been over to Cairns, I've been to Dubai, auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, that heed that calling. If people are going to tell you this, that way, that listen to them by all means. But what does that say and that say? Because if I'd have listened to a lot of people, I got told by another medium that I got tested when I first started this, and I never knew that that meant. There was like it could have gone one or two ways, and they needed to test you to see if you were true to your heart. And I always remember that there was a guy that reached out to us from another organization, bless them, right? No judgment, reached out,
Yeah.
and it was funny enough. I used to run a gym as a manager, and he was a member there as well. So I thought, oh, this is aligned at the time. Anyway, it was a sense that because mine was blowing up, there was a lot of publicity, a lot of celebrities, and they'd got an organization, they were getting paid, but it was a sense of, oh, we need to come together for collective efforts. But it was all
Mm.
handshakes. And there was something in me at that time, right at the beginning, going, there's something like, why are we handshaking? Because I'm like, oh, I want to move into mental health. I was like, have you got any jobs? I was like, I'd love to do this full time. Oh, well, we haven't got anything, Glenn, but like when we do. So it was kind of all
Yeah.
there. And then I started
Mm-hmm.
noticing it was a sense of, Glenn, the next time you go on TV, I'll come on with you because I'm media trained. So I can start telling them. And I was like, hang on a minute, this is not, and I probably didn't handle it right at the time. I was young, I was kind of not aggressive, but to the point where I'm going, no, 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 no. Like nothing's in
You
right.
were listening.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like appropriation for you guys rather than me. So I pulled back and I pulled away from them. And that was the first test. Was you going to do all this work, this
Mm-hmm.
mission, and direct it to somebody else? Or
Mm-hmm.
was you going to stay true to your heart, heed the calling,
Mm-hmm.
and do it? We're
Mm-hmm.
coming to 7 years, 12 million people, over 500 of the world's biggest names from every single industry. And all I did was reach out with a voice note. And that's that vibrational energy. That's that heart. That's that love. Like, because the first time I was on TV in America, I was so shocked. And so I look, Casper the Friendly Ghost had nothing on me because I was so taken back. This woman said to me, um, she was like, Glenn, can I just say something? She was like, do you realize what you've created? She was like, first and foremost, you've got some of the world's biggest names and they trusted you. They trusted you,
Mm-hmm.
Glenn, with their story and they didn't know you. What do you have to say to that? And you can see me on live TV. I've got a recorder and I'm
You're
going,
like,
because you don't realize the profound.
yeah.
When you're in the moment, you don't realize what you're creating. It's only
Mm-hmm.
when you take a step back. And now, because I bring people together and share their stories in books and everything, I did an event recently, and there was a guy that said, why didn't you take more stage time, Glenn? Like it's yours, you've created it. And
Right.
because I share other people's stories, I get them on stage to speak. And the reason I
Mm-hmm.
stand back is I embrace it all and just
Mm-hmm.
go, this is what it's about. Because if
Mm-hmm.
those people can get on stage and share their story in a book and I can amplify it around the world,
Exactly.
it shows them that they're enough, that their voice is enough, and they're
Mm-hmm.
enough. And that is what it is to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
Yep.
Glenn.
That is Glenn, and that's the word amplify. That's the
Yeah.
word amplify. I was hearing amplify in my head, and you said it. It's exactly right because your purpose is to amplify, to uplift, to connect. It's not to be in the front, it's to
Yeah.
bring that to the world.
Yep.
Amplify. That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I mean, just listening to your story, just hearing everything, and you are such a beautiful person. Your heart does come through 100 million% right through. Yeah.
I hope it does. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
everyone feels that most definitely. And that's why people feel it through voice text, through podcast, through your inquiry, whatever it is, that's what they're feeling and they're drawn to you. And I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to see all the amazing things that happen in 2025 and stay connected and talk again. And I want you to be able to tell people where they can find you, tell people all about your podcast, tell people all about everything that you want to share, because I want them to find out more about you.
Thank you. Well, they can go to imperfectlyperfectcampaign.org. That's my philanthropic endeavors, where we give free awareness out. It's never been about donations or grants, like I said before. So everything's free for people. Imperfectly Perfect podcast. And then from the side, I obviously built my business. I help people take their messages out. So as you can see, we do the voices of influence. So if you have got a story, you want to amplify it around the world, what we do is we get everyday people like myself and we position them at the side of some of the world's biggest names in our book series. So we've got corporate leaders, athletes, celebrities from Hollywood and Australia, and you share your story alongside them and it amplifies around the world. And
Wow.
yeah, mine. But I'll just say before we go, I want to thank you for what you do, because as I said, it was that sincerity and that energy that I felt from you on Alex's show. And that was the connection. And then there's something clearly there, because your friend had a dream about me, which
I know.
I'll tell my wife, your friend had a dream about me, another woman.
My friend Dina had a dream about you, Glenn, last night. She's like, I don't even know a Glenn. Why am I dreaming about a Glenn? I said, I'm having a Glenn on the podcast today. And I mean, it was amazing. I'm like, I don't know any other Glens. It has to be Glenn. And that's how it happens. And that's how it works. But stay tuned, because we'll tell you why later when we discover it in the future.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you sent me a voice text and you reached out to me, and you and I were able to connect and create a friendship. And I want to amplify and support your work and share you with our community. And I'm really so grateful that you could come on the podcast and be our guest and share your story. So thank you so much for that. And everyone, I will put in all the information that Glenn just said in our show notes, so you can go check it out and link to his website. But thank you so much, Glenn. And I want to tell everyone else that until next time, I want you to remember that within every moment lies the call to listen to your spirit. Answer it, honor it, and always, as we just said, live the call. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's episode sparked insights for you on your healing journey. If you're searching for support and connection, you should join our community at spirit-calling.com. Spirit Calling is a like-minded community of spiritual individuals learning, sharing, and growing together every day. No matter what you're experiencing in your journey, you'll find resources and a community to support you along the way. Until next time, keep listening to your internal guidance and stepping into your spirit's call.